Obi-Wan never told you what happened to your father.
He told me enough. He told me you killed him.
No. I am your father.
When you watch certain movies, there's something about them that makes them stand out in comparison to movies like Fast and Furious, whether it be a beautiful scene or something like a shocking moment. I'd personally say that a good plot twist really stays with you in minutes, days, or even weeks after you finish a film. Today I'm going to be discussing the movie which I think has possibly the best plot twist ever, Shutter Island.
Pull yourself together, Teddy. Pull yourself together.
The movie starts out on a boat with this US Marshal called Teddy, and joining him is his new partner, the Hulk. They meet this fat bastard who tells them to hand their guns over, so they both do this, but this snob here seems to struggle a little bit. They're here to discover the disappearance of a patient, and in order to do this, they meet with Dr. John Cockley. They meet with Dr. John Corley, who's played by Gandhi. He tells them that the patient's former psychiatrist, Dr. Sheehan, was left on vacation right after she had disappeared, and Teddy starts losing the plot, experiencing migraines and Vietnam flashbacks. And then he takes the medicine that was given to him by the doctor, but this doesn't help, as he keeps seeing dreams of his dead wife, where he reveals to he reveals to Chuck that he's really on the island to find Andrew Ladis, the man that killed his wife in an arson attack. They end up smoking cigarettes offered to them by a member of staff, before finding out that the patient they're looking for, whose name is Rachel Solando, I forgot to mention that, but she gets found, and she sits in this room like Hannibal Lecter. She mistakes Teddy for her husband, and so she gets up and gets all like freaky with him, before she just, again, starts losing the plot. Teddy and Chuck take a tour around the island, where Teddy sneaks into a restricted ward, and after finding a bunch of people with their woods out, he runs into an old friend whose voice he recognizes. It turns out to be a bold ginger. It turns out to be a beaten up prisoner called George Noyce, but in the scene he doesn't look too nice. No? Okay. Moving on. He tells Teddy that the staff have been kidnapping people and taking them to a lighthouse,
Fortnite.
where they get experimented on and lobotomized. What really kills the fun here is when George tells Teddy that the island's unsafe, that he's slowly being manipulated, playing into their hand, and he wants him to trust no one. Teddy's confused, but then George hits him with a reality check.
You're not investigating anything. You're a fucking rat in a maze.
He says he's going to do good because he's with his partner, but then George asks Teddy,
You never worked with him before, have you?
He's a US Marshal.
You never worked with him before, have you?
Teddy regroups with Chuck, and they decide to be good lads and go on a hike in order to find that lighthouse. Teddy's really motivated to find it, until he gets separated, and then he looks over this cliff to see, Teddy climbs down to search for Chuck's body, but ends up spotting some light in a cave, so he climbs up where he finds the real Rachel Solando, and she's just chilling by herself.
Who are you?
She babbles on about the experiments before mentioning how they're trying to use Teddy's trauma to force him into a psychotic episode so they could have him admitted to the asylum. Teddy rushes back where he meets Corley and asks him where Chuck is, only to be met with Corley telling them that
You don't have a partner, Marshal. You came here alone.
Teddy decides to journey to the lighthouse before meeting this German doctor cunt. And while he begins to talk to him, he fights back an attempt from the doctor to sedate him and ends up turning the tables on him. Sorry. He makes it to the lighthouse and arms himself. He makes it to the lighthouse and arms himself with this rifle, where he ascends to the top, coming face to face with Dr. Corley, who opens up with a weird way of confrontation.
Why are you all wet, baby?
Teddy exclaims that he knows what they're up to, that he was told by Rachel Solando, only for Corley to tell him that.
Considering she's not real.
And while Teddy's still in the midst of processing this,
Let me process this.
Chuck walks in, revealing himself to be Dr. Sheehan.
What is the next step of the operation?
Corley explains that Teddy is Andrew Ladis, a US Marshal who's been sentenced to the mental asylum for the murder of his depressed wife, Dolores Channel, where if you rearrange the letters, it comes out to Rachel Solando. She killed their children by drowning them in the lake near their house, and Corley further mentions how Teddy's delusions are because of his guilt, that he had created the persona Edward Daniels to cope with the repression of the fact that he murdered his wife, and that they've been role-playing to try to get him to understand who he is.
Leave me alone!
But Teddy, or shall I say Andrew, gets overwhelmed and faints because of this information. When he wakes up, Corley tells him that he's achieved the state 9 months ago, but quickly went back to normal after he failed to cope. He warns Andrew, telling him it's his last chance, or he's going to be sent to the hard reset factory for good, due to his violent acts against other patients and the staff, such as George Noyce.
Who did this to you, George?
You did.
He relaxes outside where Dr. Sheehan arrives, only to meet Andrew back in the deluded state he found him in. But it turns out he isn't actually back to Teddy, he's still Andrew, as he asks him,
Which would be worse? To live as a monster? Or to die as a good man?
which shows that he basically goes to be lobotomized because he can't live with the truth that he's discovered. Wow, what a plot twist. Beautiful. The setup, the execution, all good. Yeah. It's nice, but what if I told you it was right in front of you the entire film? If you've been watching this video with your ears open, you may have heard this sound a few times. I played this to show when Teddy's delusions take place on the screen, or any repression of the truth is shown, starting with the very beginning of the film. When they arrive, Chuck struggles to take off his gun, showing that he's inexperienced, because he's actually a doctor, not a marshal, whereas Andrew does it without any trouble. The next time it's played is where he's given medicine by Dr. Corley, and also when he's offered cigarettes by the staff, indicating that he could have been drugged. After that, where he meets Rachel Solander, where she mistakes Andrew for her husband, because Rachel Solander is an anagram for his real wife, Dolores Channel. The next time is when he meets George, who's pretty much the insane version of Andrew, who he's talking to inside the cell, who's trying to warn himself that he's being gaslighted in order for him to further hide the truth from himself. So basically here, he's just talking to himself. He's pretty much just lying to himself. And finally, where he meets the quote-unquote real Rachel Solander, who tells him that they've been trying to abduct him and brainwash him so they can experiment on him. And that is the end, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you enjoyed, and I know it's been quite a while since I've last uploaded, but I'm going to try and be more consistent, hopefully. Hope you enjoyed, and let me know in the comments what I should upload next.